Hi everyone, I'm here with Ryan DeLuca, co-founder and CEO of Blackbox VR. As you can see, we're here at their Boise gym. It has a very futuristic and cool vibe to it. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for coming, appreciate it.
Hey, look, I'm really excited to talk to you about the process of innovation and give our viewers a glimpse into Ryan DeLuca's playbook of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
But before we get into that, I'd like you to help us set the stage and set the table a little bit. Tell us about Blackbox VR, a little bit about the history, about the future, and about the product itself.
So Blackbox VR is the first ever virtual reality workout experience. So basically you go inside virtual reality, do a full resistance-based workout with HIIT, high intensity interval training type of cardio, while you're playing a game. That's the exciting part about it, is like it's no longer just a workout where you're just sitting here looking in the mirror, bored out of your mind, wishing that this was over. You're playing a fun and exciting game, in VR, using your body as a controller and using your actual strength, your actual abilities, your actual athleticism to win or lose the game. And that is going to make it so you're going to want to come back to the workout more often. And as we know, the only secret to fitness success is consistency over time. So we basically put together the best of virtual reality, esports and gaming with real exercise science and fitness, and created that experience that is now available out in these gyms.
Convergence of so many different things all coming together. So where can I find your machines, obviously other than the gym that I'm at right now here in Boise, but tell me a little bit about how you rolled out your equipment out into the marketplace.
Sure, when you do something brand new, you start with that concept and you go on into building a product, and then you have to figure out how you're going to take that product to market. And so obviously if it's a software product, you can put it online. It could be an app in the App Store. If it's a hardware product, a lot of home-based ones, you can sell it through the internet or sell it through retailers. With a fitness experience and this expensive machine that we created for the resistance training, we decided that the best way would be to open up our own virtual training centers. And so that's where we're at right here is one of them, here in Boise, Idaho, downtown. We also opened up one in San Francisco, right across from Twitter headquarters. And now we have 4 locations open inside EOS Fitness gyms, 3 in the Arizona area and 1 in the San Diego area. And so basically what we said is we want to have people come to our gym. We're going to teach them how to use the equipment. We're going to put them through the onboarding experience, and we're going to really scale out the product in these physical centers.
Okay. One thing you mentioned I want to pick back up on, you said, you talked about this immersive experience and the intersection of virtual reality and resistance training. Why VR? Why did you choose virtual reality to address, consistency in training, as you called it out?
Right. Well, one of the biggest things I believe about being an entrepreneur is that you can't just try to compete against the current incumbents that are already out there, right? If you want to just try to be better than Microsoft or better than Walmart, good luck. I hope you're successful, but it's going to be very difficult. Almost all the great entrepreneurial stories start with a new technology. Something changed in the marketplace. The older companies did not see it, and then they found it, right? So Uber finding a way to use phones and GPS in order to change the taxi industry. Back with bodybuilding.com, our first company, we were competing against GNC. These are these stores. They've been around for 60, 70 years, very well known in every single mall in America. And we went around them with the internet. And that was something that they were just not prepared to deal with. So when we started looking at a new concept in fitness, we already were in love with virtual reality. Virtual reality was just becoming a big deal. You heard about the Oculus first headsets. They finally were at the quality level that they could be for real personal use. And Facebook then bought them for like $2 billion. So that was kind of a big thing, saying, hey, there's something really here, and there's a lot of investment going in this area. And so when we looked at it, we said, well, with virtual reality, like what does it bring that's new to the table? You don't want to just try to recreate something that you could do in an old way, in a new way. Like I'd use the example of when radio was out with a lot of different shows. When TV first came out, they actually put radio shows on TV. So you'd see the person, the announcer, but it's like, wait, TV is a visual medium. You could do so much more with that. And so what we decided is with virtual reality, because of the fact that it immerses you in this experience, because you could play a game and be the character, instead of controlling the character, you are the character inside the game. And so we said there's probably something interesting there. And so what we realized is that at bodybuilding.com, our number one competitor, we always said, was the couch, that we lose more people to just stop working out, And so we said, video games are extremely addictive. You wish you could stop playing them as much as you do. Like I'm gonna play for 30 more minutes, next thing you know, it's 3 a.m. and you're gonna be tired tomorrow, With fitness, it's the opposite. Like you feel like you've been there for hours and it's only been 5 minutes, So if you could take the best of video games, put yourself inside the game, which virtual reality allowed for the first time, we believe that could really be a great way to get people addicted to their fitness routine.
So you chose virtual reality. It sounds like it's because it was a transcending technology, and it also had this immersive aspect to it that you could see users or people who exercise kind of get into. But you also mentioned the couch, and this is where I'd like to switch gears a little bit to your innovation playbook. So the couch is the problem in a way, right?
Right.
We're here in your gym. It's well established. The machine is working. Chuck just did a workout. But there's a whole backstory that we can reverse engineer on how you got here. So before this machine even existed, how did you identify the couch as a problem? Like, how did that come to be?
So my co-founder Preston Lewis and I, we said after bodybuilding.com, after retiring from there, taking a little bit of a break, let's go start something brand new. And it really just came down to we want to do something in fitness and something with a new technology. And we realized virtual reality was going to be that technology that we wanted to jump on. It was the right time, and it's still the right time, because it's still early days. But we started with just basically having no idea. And I think that's part of what people are confused about a lot of times with being an entrepreneur is they think you have this eureka idea, you're just in the shower and it just came to you and it's genius and all you got to do is do the quick step to just make the product and then sell to Facebook in a few months.
And you're saying it's not that way. You're shattering my dreams.
I wish it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, we're doing it really wrong. But, but the truth is, usually it comes like there's some problem that you're seeing in the world, and that's the couch. The greatest scientists and doctors, they've not figured out how to reduce the obesity rate in America. They've not figured out how to get people to stick to a workout program or to lose weight and leave it off for years. Some of the studies we looked at over 5 years, people that lost weight and kept it off, it'd be a big success because some intervention they did helped like 10% of the people to maintain the results. 90% failure. And so the problem really was that people are not sticking to routines. They know what to do. They know they should be eating chicken, broccoli. They shouldn't eat pizza. They know they should go to the gym and do some type of workout, but they just don't do it.
So you identified the problem, and you just started talking about the research, the data that you started sort of building around this problem statement. Tell me a little bit more about that process.
It really was deep diving right into all of it, right? So it'd be easy to say, oh, we have a good idea, we're going to start building the product. But the first thing we did is said, let's just get every book we can find. Let's go to every conference that's
you guys
related.
Actually read books.
Yeah, read actual books, like physical ones. Yeah.
What's that? Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's one around here. But really, it was let's just dive into this. We don't know, and we're okay not knowing. We don't have to have all the answers, but we're going to go figure it out. Talk to the right people. Start building the team of people around us that have that knowledge, that things that we weren't strong in, Preston and I, and bring those to the team. So we didn't know how to make games. We didn't know how to make hardware. We felt really good about understanding the fitness and psychology and obviously business, and design. But it really came down to building that out. So first was identifying the problem. Second was just immersing ourselves in everything related to it.
So now you're crystal clear on the problem. You've immersed yourself in all this knowledge. You brought people and subject matter expertise onto the team. How does that then galvanize into this idea that then you can go and rally the team around?
It's funny, I sometimes have people ask me like, hey, we have this business doing this certain type of thing, and how can we come up with innovative ways to change the industry? And they expect that I'm just going to say, oh, have you thought about some random thing and it's going to be simple? But the truth is, there's no quick way to figure it out. It's really immersing yourself in a problem, understanding clearly what the problem is, understanding clearly who you're trying to help with that problem, immersing yourself in it, and then magically, when you're in the shower, because your brain's been working on it. That's the exciting thing about the way the brain works is that all the data you're taking in, if you have the right information flow, your subconscious mind is constantly working on it if it understands the problem it's trying to solve. And then you just wake up one morning, like I said, in the shower, and you're like, you know what? Dude, wouldn't this be awesome? And then you're like walking out of the shower, taking notes, And it's just a whole bunch of those over years that turned into an amazing product.
So at this point, you're talking about this idea that's awesome. You're getting your team members bought into this, and you're all infecting each other. I've heard you and Preston talk about you guys laying on the ground and going through motions.
Right.
I mean, that is about as rudimentary, call it primitive, of prototyping. But tell me about that.
Well, that's where you have to use your imagination, because you're trying to create a new product, especially a hardware product, something that you can't just quickly create an app. You can't just write some quick software and see what it's going to look like, or even a prototype. It's very difficult. So you have to just really be able to say, okay, let's imagine that this product was like this. And then you go start to build the prototypes. And then it takes a lot of time because it's hardware, and you're going to get it back and you see some things are wrong. But yeah, the very first things we started doing was, we knew we wanted to do resistance training inside of virtual reality. We wanted that to be the workout program because that's the most effective for building lean mass, for losing fat, for longevity and health and all these metabolic diseases. So we said, let's do that. So we would literally lay down on the floor and say, imagine you're like pretending you're lifting this thing up and you have these weights and what kind of game could you play? And it was all just totally just brainstorming and fun, but we really just immersed ourselves into that problem and just iterated on that.
Okay, so it sounds like then the technical problem, in theory, you had solved by crossing virtual reality and resistance training. And so from the customer side, the whole gamification and fitness and health, at what point did you start talking to potential users? Like, did you involve them early on, later in this, in kind of the idea stage, or when?
You know, we tried to talk to users as much as we could in the very beginning to understand the problem and understand how they would perceive this type of solution. But first, we just use the product for ourselves. And we've been working out our whole life. Fitness is very important to us. And we said, if we're going to make a product that we're going to have other people use, we need to quit the regular gym. And this was like a big day, like a few years ago. We just said, we're quitting the gym forever. We're never going back to a regular gym. We're going to use our own product, eat our own dog food type of thing. And it's amazing how much of a sense of urgency that creates, because now when you're using it as a real user versus as a person creating it, you look at it in an entirely different way. Because you're like, oh, I need this, or I don't like this, or this thing broke, now I can't work out, now I'm very upset, personally versus just as a product developer.
Well, so you and your team, you guys are positioned as good arbiters, I would think, because you're passionate about the thing that you're trying to build, the problem that you're trying to solve. Mm-hmm. And so, point being, oftentimes I see entrepreneurs cherry picking certain ideas because they're shiny or they have the promise of a big return. And when the passion isn't there, you kind of find yourself, or they find themselves in situations like you did, but then lacks the fuel of the passion to kind of move them forward. Right. And so, with all that, how did you build the first one? What did it look like? Was it jerry-rigged? Did you go to Home Depot? Kind of give us an idea of that prototype.
It was, it's funny looking back because it was very rudimentary, very simple, but that's how you have to develop a product. Is a lot of people want to create this perfect product and get it all done, but you really just got to create that MVP, the minimal viable product that can actually go to market and be used for this use case. And so we just got some really simple benchtop prototypes of the machine where we can actually just kind of pull on it and see how it felt. We had started developing the game, because there was no game that obviously would work together with this. So we, when we try to look for machines or games that could just work, that we could just adapt this to, but there was nothing. And so then we said, we're going to have to create that game, and it's just going in there and playing around. Hey, we have a random idea. Let's go and make it the cheapest way possible. The game's ugly. They call it gray boxing because it's like instead of actual bad guys coming at you, it's just a bunch of like refrigerator-looking boxes moving around, right? You don't spend any time on how it looks.
Gray boxing. Okay, I didn't know that. All right.
And in video games, they do that a lot. And so the point is, now let's see how it feels. Well, I don't really like the way this game feels, or I like this part. Something just like a eureka little moment of saying, oh, this was actually better than I thought, or man, that'd be really nice. And then you just keep iterating in that way. And then once you eventually start bringing in those beta testers, then you get the real juice.
You're getting to the fallacy of assuming too much and thinking that you know everything and you are the arbiter until you actually use the damn thing, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what's crazy. They say as soon as you have somebody use your actual product, it's very eye-opening, because you know it so well. Like, why don't they understand it the same way? And especially if you're doing something brand new. If you were going to create something that's already out there, people understand how it works. It's not that big a deal. Something brand new, they're bringing all of their life perception and opinions into this. Somebody's really into fitness, they think it should be like this. Somebody's really into VR. Somebody doesn't understand games at all. And there's all sorts of different
So
people
you're
on
educating
that
and you're evangelizing as you're releasing the product itself. So isn't this also about just breaking stuff? It's like this process that you're talking about. Are you looking to break the machine and see its flaws? And
oh yeah, all the time. And we have broken it a few times, but we wanted us to be the ones breaking it. I always joke like I somehow have this ability to find problems and have bad things happen to me. Like in the game, something broke, and this is not working, But I'm always like, I'm totally fine with that. I want to be the first beta tester. Our team should be the first beta testers, so we can find the problems before it goes to market, And then that seems to help quite a bit.
Okay, and so you guys break stuff, you iterate, you take feedback into account, your own feedback and some user feedback. Where is product development as we sit here today in terms of your overall machine?
We're pretty far along. So, obviously we have a commercial product. We've been in the market for over a year now when we first opened in San Francisco. And it really was the goal of doing that was just to make sure that we could learn as fast as possible. Get out there with real users, people that are paying. How's the marketing? How's the business model? Like, there's so many aspects to it. And so from a product development perspective, we've released the product, but of course you're never done, right? It's constant iteration, and you get this feedback from real users, which is so valuable. I think one of the biggest things as an entrepreneur also is not having such a big ego that you can't throw away something that you were like 100% sure was going to work. If it's not going to work, then you got to be willing to change it. But that was a lot of the reason why in the beginning we just said we don't know, and we're not going to pretend like we know, because the more you stick your heels in, the more you're going to want to stick to those things. We just said, we'll figure it out, and we'll get that data, iterate, and repeat.
And so look, you've had a history as an entrepreneur, right? You mentioned bodybuilding.com earlier. When I think about, kids out of high school, kids out of college, or even people in their early careers thinking about, I want to find the problem, right? I'm going to look around in my own life, around me, my family, my work life, and find the problem. What kind of advice would you give, the younger generation as they look for problems? What sort of, when you early on, and you were very young when you started your first company.
Right. Yeah. Right out of high school.
Right out of high school. Kind of tell me about the Ryan DeLuca in those days, and what was the impetus to get you to solve a problem back then? And I'll say this because, so many of us and the younger generation, we're sort of conditioned to run away from problems. It's like if a problem occurs, like there's two kinds of people. There's the one that, great, they run towards us, and there's those that, tuck their tail and walk away. But what would you say about the early Ryan DeLuca?
I mean, I definitely think find something you are passionate about. Like you say, if you're coming to it looking at like you just want to make money, I want to make money, I want to sell a company, I want to be successful and important, it's just not going to happen, right? With bodybuilding.com, I fell in love with just bodybuilding in general. Like when I was 14 years old, that was going to be my thing. Like some people sports, some people music. I was going to be a guy that was in good shape, and I was going to go and compete in competitions and things like that. And I just read every magazine, like I was obsessed with it. And then when this magical thing, the internet, came out, this was like 94, 95, 1900s. I just couldn't believe that now, instead of just seeing people in these magazines, I could actually talk to other people. And it was very intimidating to talk to people at the gym. Some big guy over there lifted really heavy. I was like scared. I didn't want to ask me questions, but I so wanted to know like what he was doing. Now all of a sudden, the internet, I could send messages to people, and they would write back on these little mailing lists and things like that, and eventually forums. And so for me, it was, man, wouldn't it be great if I had this site that had all this great unbiased content, easy to connect with people through forums, and this is before social networks and before even MySpace and stuff. If there was like videos to teach me how to do all this stuff, so I knew I was doing it correctly. What if I can get the supplements that I wanted, the protein powders, super fast to my door at a great price with a big selection, and then reviews from people that I can trust. So it's like, I'm not just the guy at the store telling me I need to get this stuff just because he's making a commission. So basically, we just built the product that we wanted for ourselves, and turns out a lot of people wanted that same exact thing. And that's usually the case. Usually the case is if you find this need, you have this desire, pretty likely that other people do too. And if you go based on that passion, you're more likely to build a good product.
It's interesting you bring that up. We're talking to Eric from Treeford, and he was telling us about sort of the culmination of experiences and passions that he had, and how those like led him to be a part of Treeford. You're talking about the early days of you wanting to be a bodybuilder, and you go compete. But then the internet comes along, and sort of the two merge into something else, and you find a business. And so I think there's just so many golden nuggets in that's a journey. You didn't set out. I mean, bodybuilding was your passion, but you wanted to be the guy, right? And so that leading to a business, I think, is encouraging because we all have passions. And I mean, who's to say that back then, as a 14-year-old, if someone would have told you, this could be what you do for a living later on, bodybuilding. You probably wouldn't believe that. So that's very inspiring. And thank you for sharing that part of the entrepreneurial journey as well.
And I think putting it together with new technology, like I said, it's like if you're you're passionate about this certain thing, trying to figure out where it's going, look at all the different technologies that are out there. There's tons of great books and resources and places that you could find that type of information, and just really dig into one of them and say, how could this? It may not be obvious how cryptocurrency could affect automobiles or something, right, that you care about. But there's probably something in there, maybe not, but go investigate it. Drones and AI and AR and VR, obviously. There's so many new technologies these days. years ago, it's funny, probably like 18 years ago, a long time ago, I went spoke to some Boise State students who are all now very much older, double their age. But they rose their hand as I was telling about the story about Bodybuilding.com, how the internet started. Like, hey, frustrating part is that all the ideas have been taken. There's nothing new. And this is before Facebook. This is before Uber. This is before almost everything that's out there now.
Point, right?
Yeah. And we're still at that point. Things are changing so fast, and the big companies are not looking at it. They're not, I mean, the Microsofts and the Facebooks and the Googles, obviously, but you don't want to compete in those areas. In the areas you're passionate about, these smaller niche areas, they're not looking at this stuff.
Let me pull on that string.
Open.
So what kind of industries or technologies, what excites you? What if you had, if you woke up tomorrow, you had all the time in the world, the startup, was passé. What other problems are you excited about solving?
You know what I would say is AR right now. So that's not a problem, right? But augmented reality, when the Apple glasses finally come out in the next couple of years, they're for sure working on it. They've been buying companies. They've been eating up that whole industry. It's going to change everything. Like, we're going to have the screens everywhere. We're going to have data that we can't even imagine. If I was somebody trying to get into something right now, I would try to figure out how to use augmented reality to solve that next problem. But to go to your original question, when I was at Bodybuilding.com, people would always talk to me like, hey, you guys built this huge company and you're an entrepreneur and you come up with all these ideas. What are the other bunch of things you would do? And I almost felt bad because I had no idea. Like, I didn't have an answer. I'm like, well, I'm not sure. But I think that goes back to, it's not just well, have you thought about, and genius idea comes
Mic
out.
drop and
And
leave.
everyone's like, oh my gosh, that blew my mind. That just doesn't happen. The truth is, once we left Bodybuilding.com, Preston and I just started saying, hey, we identified this technology, we identified this problem, here's our expertise and our passion, let's just go tackle that. And now I look back and say, if you would have told the Ryan at Bodybuilding.com that we'd be doing virtual reality fitness and all these games and all this fun stuff, I would never have been able to guess that. But that's what happened.
Very cool. I think that's a good place to end it. I want to thank you for your time. Thanks for having us here at the studio. And good luck with Black Box VR.
I appreciate it. Let's get you in there right now.
All right, let's do it.
All right.